Throughout history, humanity has witnessed the devastation caused by war, violence, and oppression. The scars of this suffering stretch beyond the individuals who experience it. They impact generations, shaping not only the minds, but the very nature of societies. But what if I told you that the greatest perpetrators of harm are often those who have been harmed themselves? This paradox is rooted in one of the most profound ideas of the human psyche, put forth by the famous Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers. In these few words, Jung encapsulates a fundamental truth about human nature. The emotional and psychological wounds we carry can shape our actions, often leading us to perpetuate the same harm we have suffered. Jung's insight brings us to a crucial realization about the complex relationship between suffering and behavior. In this essay, we will explore this idea in depth, delving into Jung's belief in the cycle of suffering, the connection between trauma and behavior, and the path toward healing and integration. Understanding this idea is essential not only for personal growth, but also for the prevention of future harm in our communities and societies. Welcome to the Unfolding Journey, a space where we explore the intricacies of human nature, mental well-being, and personal growth. If you've ever wondered about the connection between the pain we carry and the actions we take, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into Carl Jung's wisdom, unpacking the implications of his belief that those who have suffered are often the ones most likely to perpetuate harm. But don't worry, this is not just a journey into darkness. It's also a path toward healing, understanding, and breaking free from destructive cycles. So, grab a cup of tea, make yourself comfortable, and let's begin this exploration together. At its core, Jung's quote speaks to a painful but often overlooked truth. Individuals who have endured trauma or suffering are more likely to inflict harm on others. Whether it's physical, emotional, or psychological pain, those who have been wounded have the potential to perpetuate that pain, often in ways they don't even fully understand. Jung's assertion that the healthy man does not torture others highlights the idea that true health, mental, emotional, and spiritual, prevents one from causing harm. Health, in Jung's view, is not simply the absence of illness or injury, but a state of integration and balance within oneself. When someone is whole, when they have integrated their inner wounds, made peace with their past, and processed their emotions, their behavior aligns with compassion, understanding, and kindness. But when someone carries unresolved trauma, the scars can manifest in negative behaviors that harm others. This is not always a conscious or intentional act. Often, it is a reflex, a defensive mechanism, a reaction to the unhealed pain that still resides within. Trauma creates deep rifts in a person's psyche, leaving them with feelings of anger, fear, and a sense of injustice. Without proper healing, these feelings can spiral outward, causing the individual to hurt others as a way of coping or exerting control over their own fractured world. The psychology of torture and perpetrators. Let's take a closer look at the psychology of those who torture, abuse, or oppress. What leads someone to commit such acts of cruelty? On the surface, it may seem incomprehensible that a person could inflict suffering on another. But when viewed through the lens of trauma, the answer becomes clearer. Many torturers and perpetrators of violence are, in fact, victims themselves. This is not to excuse their actions, but to understand the psychological forces that drive them. Trauma, whether it's from childhood abuse, war, or societal oppression, can distort one's perception of the world. When an individual is subjected to extreme stress or violence, they may develop a belief that the world is a hostile, dangerous place. As a result, they might use violence to defend themselves, assert dominance, or regain a sense of control over their environment. The concept of the wounded healer is an important one in psychology. Jung himself discussed this idea extensively. He believed that those who had suffered the most were often the ones best suited to heal others, but only if they had addressed their own wounds. Without this healing, the trauma of the past remains alive in the present, often influencing one's thoughts and actions in destructive ways. For many perpetrators of violence, their past trauma has not been healed or integrated, leaving them vulnerable to repeating the cycle of harm. The cycle of suffering can be a deeply ingrained pattern that spans generations. This is especially true when trauma is not acknowledged, processed, or healed. Whether it's a child raised in an abusive household or a soldier returning from war with untreated PTSD, the unresolved pain of the past can have far-reaching consequences. Jung's theory of the collective unconscious offers valuable insights here. He believed that trauma does not only affect individuals but also the collective psyche of a culture or society. In other words, the pain of one generation is passed on to the next, not just through personal experiences, but through the very structure of the community. This cyclical nature of trauma is one of the reasons why historical atrocities, such as war, genocide, and slavery, tend to repeat themselves. The wounds inflicted on individuals and communities shape their worldview, which in turn affects their actions. As the suffering continues without resolution, the cycle perpetuates itself, often resulting in more harm being done to others. The tortured, who have been victims of injustice, inequality, or violence, may eventually become the ones who inflict similar suffering on others, perpetuating the same destructive patterns. Healing the wounds, the path to integration. So, if trauma can lead to such destructive cycles, how can they be broken? The answer lies in healing and integration. According to Jung, healing involves acknowledging and integrating the darker, painful aspects of the self. This process is often referred to as shadow work, facing the parts of ourselves that we have repressed or denied. For those who have suffered trauma, this might mean confronting the pain of the past, understanding its impact, and processing the emotions tied to it. Jung believed that true healing happens when we accept the entirety of our experience, including the pain and suffering, and work to make peace with it. The unhealed parts of ourselves, the shadow, are not something to be feared or suppressed, but integrated and understood. This allows the individual to move forward with a sense of wholeness, compassion, and empathy, rather than being driven by unresolved anger or fear. Furthermore, healing is not only an individual journey, but a collective one. Communities, societies, and cultures must also address their shared wounds. This involves creating spaces for dialogue, understanding, and reconciliation. It is only when collective trauma is acknowledged and worked through that a society can move toward healing and avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. The role of compassion and forgiveness. Compassion and forgiveness play critical roles in breaking the cycle of suffering. While it may seem impossible to forgive someone who has caused immense pain, Jung suggested that forgiveness is not just a moral act but a psychological necessity. Holding onto anger and resentment only prolongs the suffering, while forgiveness allows both the victim and the perpetrator to free themselves from the grip of the past. Forgiveness, however, does not mean forgetting or condoning the harm that was done. It simply means releasing the emotional hold that the past has on us. When individuals and communities embrace forgiveness, they open the door to healing, and with healing comes the possibility of change. Jung's profound observation that the healthy man does not torture others reminds us of the crucial relationship between suffering and behavior. Those who carry the weight of trauma are at risk of perpetuating harm unless they heal and integrate their pain. Healing is not only essential for personal well-being but also for breaking destructive cycles that harm individuals, families, and societies. As we reflect on this truth, we must recognize that healing is not an easy or linear process. It requires self-awareness, compassion, and the courage to face painful truths. But by committing to this journey, both individually and collectively, we can transform the wounds of the past into opportunities for growth, empathy, and understanding. At the unfolding journey, we believe that through awareness and healing, we can break free from the cycles of suffering and create a more compassionate, harmonious world. If this message resonates with you, we invite you to join us on this path toward healing and transformation. Together, we can unfold the layers of our shared human experience and embrace the power of personal and collective growth. If you found this video insightful and want to continue exploring topics that delve into the complexities of the human experience, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll stay connected with our unfolding journey toward greater understanding, healing, and self-awareness. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on our next video.